What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 7. And today we have a mix of topics we're going to go over here. But for the most part, we're going to be focusing on game improvement. Talking about how all of us are trying to get better at Siege, as I'm sure many of you are as well. That's going to be the main topic. Before we get into that, though, we're going to talk a little bit about the test server. There was a patch that was rolled out today. They've already fixed a ton of bugs in there. There's a couple things we want to make you aware of in there right now. We're also going to talk a little bit about Project A, or Valorant. We've seen the first real gameplay from that. That's the new FPS that's being worked on. It's supposed to be released this summer by Riot Games. A lot of hype around that. We'll give kind of our instant reactions to what we've seen from that. And then, yeah, of course, we're going to get into the Siege improvement topic as well. So with that said, how you guys doing? What's up, Pete, Alex?
Doing good.
Veronica?
Doing good. Yeah. I think one of the reasons we want to talk about this other game is because a lot of people are sort of hyping it up as being quite similar to Rainbow Six Siege. And today I don't know if you'd call it a trailer, but there's been some official gameplay released of it. So we can actually talk about it now with some knowledge. So yeah, I think that's something that's going around the Rainbow Six Siege community at the moment. So we just have to talk about that for a little bit. But other than that, yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. I think last week I felt a little bit under the weather. We didn't know if it was the old corona, but I'm
Demonetized again.
I'm okay. Yeah, again. Yeah, but I'm doing all right. That's why I just said corona, because corona's a beer as well, you know. So
right. I mean, I actually have one in the fridge right now. I could go get.
Grab a corona.
Just spice it up a bit. No, I played a ton of TTS. Just trying to see if I change my mind on some of the new operators or stuff. I'm still hovering on that fun but not useful thing. And I mean, I hope to get proved wrong when they go live. I guess we'll see.
Did you see Macy's video breaking down that play with Yana? That was pretty cool.
Yep, 100%. Super well played.
Yeah.
I'll still say any other operator would have been better in any situation, but it's still a good play.
Was that the one on Coastline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
We actually talked about it today on stream, like operators like Nook. We see them in Pro League, right? Like they can have massive impact, but if you start running them all the time, it kind of diminishes, and then they don't have that impact. Like they have to be a rare. Yeah, they have to be a rare thing. And it's probably going to be the same with Yana. If you run her every time, then that hologram is going to have very, very little value. And with Oryx, if you run him all the time, that thing we got into yesterday, people are going to be there going, kind of nice. They could have had a Leash and a Jaeger, a Capcan, or an Echo instead. So
I think we need to be careful with that advice, though, because obviously at different levels of play, people use cameras more.
Yeah,
so
of course.
So the whole aspect of Nook being really useful is probably quite true at certain levels, but maybe at a lower level, people don't sit there anchoring on site checking cameras so much. So there's less value in an operator like that at a lower level.
No, I agree. It's probably the same with shields. I think shields are probably way more annoying at the lower level than they are at the higher level.
Can confirm.
The way I look at it, if I see a Muncie, for example, is I know, okay, there's someone following him, and there's someone covering somewhere else. So I already know where at least 3 out of the 5 players are just by seeing a Monty, right? One guy's holding a flank somewhere on the map. One guy's close to Monty. So for me, that's just free info. And as long as I know my return route, then it's not the worst in the world. Call your smoke in, your echo, stuff like that. But I can see if you're in a little low rank, or if you're playing casual or something, and this Monty comes walking up against you, and it's not the default way that you look at it, then that Monty might be really terrifying and annoying.
Speaking of the test server, a couple changes since the last episode. One, they took away Ying's nades in the test server. Okay, so first of all, we never knew that Ying was going to make it to the live server with nades, and now we don't know. They may change it back, so you have to throw that disclaimer out. But I kind of agree. In all honesty, it just felt a little bit weird that Ying would have a total of 5 deployables on her possession. That allows her really to be self-sufficient and do really whatever she wants. So I kind of felt like it was understandable that they did that.
Someone made a really good point about the issue of Ying having Candelas and throwables, even if she had smokes or flashes, because you can use her Candelas as like a fuse charge, right?
Yeah.
So you can burn ADSs that way on site.
Yep.
It's not used a lot for that, but having the ability to do that or put them on a barricade or a window and then destroy all ADSs that are in that vicinity, and now you can throw your smokes in or your other Candelas or your flashbangs or grenades safely. It kind of makes sense if your main gadget is a throwable. You probably shouldn't have a handful extra.
Right.
It was fun to play her with this, though.
It's just burning that utility. I think she might maybe make sense as one of the ones to lose the soft breach and maybe gain the hard breach when that does come along.
Yeah, that could be. That's going to be really interesting to see. Maybe one of these episodes before that's actually released, we should just sit here and like try and predict who would be good with that hard breach. That would be pretty interesting because there's a lot of candidates, and it's going to be. I made a video about it yesterday. It's like I think that honestly has the potential to be the biggest change in year 5. Just that introduction of that secondary gadget.
I've gone around with a banner on maps and put like 2 pellets on, one set of Habana charges and then shot away so there's only 2 pellets, just to get an idea of like what could happen if you had these small charges. You can mess things up.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be placeable, throwable, how it's going to work, but damn.
It's going to change a lot.
Yep.
It's going to change a lot. And
I agree.
I'm really excited to see that come about because I think the biggest thing that this says to me is that they are trying to make it to where players in Rainbow Six Siege have the freedom to play the operators they want and play the game how they want. They're really trying to go like the opposite direction of Overwatch, in my opinion. Overwatch is extremely class-based. You have 2 healers, 2 tanks, it's like you are pigeonholed into a role. And to me, this will really open the game up to allow players a lot more freedom in their team composition and to bring the operators that they want. And then it's going to change things for defenders as well, because now, on a site, you can kind of predict what the other team's going to bring because, hey, they need a Thatcher, they need 2 hard breach. That only leaves 2 wild card attackers, and probably one of those is going to be Zofia or Ash, maybe both. Now it could really open things up, and I'm excited to see how that comes about. I hope it's not too late. I hope it's next season that they bring this hard breach, and I think it's going to be year 5.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say I haven't seen your video yet, though. I've seen it in my sub box, the thumbnail and stuff. But I tend to agree with what you're saying because you're going to free up and have more interesting operator lineups. And obviously the result of that is on the defense, you're going to have to counter whatever the attackers ever pick, aren't you? So if you don't have to take that Hibana because there's another operator, say Ying, you can take the Ying with the hard breach to open a hatch, then obviously you're going to have to reflect those choices, whatever the attackers are picking in your defensive lineup. So I do think that it's going to actually make the game, from a Pro League standpoint, a lot more interesting to watch.
I 100% agree, especially from a viewer standpoint. There's something weird about watching a game where you can almost predict what operators are going to be ran, where they're going to be placed, what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. It can become a little bit too monotone and I don't know, like almost feel every round feels kind of scripted, right? So I hope what they're aiming for is that the role will be the player, not the operator. And by that I mean like your entry fragger could be a million different operators. Your heartbreaker could be at least one of the 3 heartbreakers, or maybe even on some maps another operator with that as a side gadget. The guy holding the flank doesn't necessarily have to be 1 out of 2 operators. The same with your soft breaches. You have more options there, right? Like with sidearm shotguns is probably the best addition we've seen to kind of loosen some of those roles up a bit. You don't need your smoke anymore to play a shotgun to make the holes, right? Now you can play the shotgun for the shotgun. to shoot people instead of just opening walls. Old school Pro League, if you didn't run a smoke shotgun, I remember C4ing walls to get rotates. If you do that today, people are gonna shake their head, right? And now we get castle sidearm shotgun, or at least I hope that stays from TTS, because that is amazing. Even on attack, the jackal and gridlock sidearm shotgun changes up a lot, right? Like, you don't have to run buck. There are some sites where you can get those few angles that you want by just running that sidearm shotgun. It's not as effective, but then again, it's an addition to another operator.
Yeah,
I like the way they're going with that stuff.
That's something that's been around for as long as Siege, though. This idea of having one. I remember year one of Pro League. They used to call it the Fantastic Five, and it was like you would see Thermite, Thatcher, Sledge, Ash, and one other almost every match. Panky, who used to commentate back in the days, coined a term all about it. But that's been, because of the nature of having a hard breach in Rainbow Six Siege and how essential it is for so many objectives. That's just been something that's been there from the beginning. You need the hard breach, and then you need the operator that allows you to hard breach, and then you need the other ones to fit in around that.
Yeah.
I mean, we even kind of have that now with the Hibana, Thermite, Sophia, Buck, Thatcher, right? Like, the amount of rounds we've seen played with that lineup, because they just overlap so damn beautifully. You have double soft breach. You have concussive mines to stop bandit tricking in case EMPing isn't enough. You have double hard breach in case one of your hard breaches dies. You can get 3 hatches plus two walls. You can split them out so many different ways. If they're Kaid tricking, well, then you can Thermite. So you always have this extra redundancy layer in your build or your lineup. And I think you'll always need that. At least at a higher level, you'll always need that no matter what. But at least now it allows, well, when these hard breach packages or whatever it's going to be comes out, it allows you a little bit of freedom in running a few different operators without giving up on redundancy ever. And then we can see teams fail their initial setup, but still have a chance to win the round. And I hope that's what they're aiming for. It'll make it much more enjoyable, and we'll see way more different setups, I hope.
Yeah. It could, again, I think that it's very possible that we'll look back and see that as the biggest thing that happened in year 5. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Another thing in the TS that I want to make sure everybody's aware of is that they, in this patch today, they actually fixed a bug in which the new shrapnel system that we explained a few episodes back, talking about the way that explosives now work, and how it can go through walls and stuff like that. If you're not familiar, go back to 2 episodes. It'll be episode 5, correct? Where we really broke down in depth how the explosions work with the new shrapnel system.
That's right. Yep.
There was a bug in how the shrapnel interacted with certain gadgets. I believe a mirror was one of them, that you would actually take more damage or something if you were standing next to a mirror. So it looks like that's been fixed. Haven't tested it personally, but that was one of the patch notes. So hopefully that's been ironed out. Anything else on the test server that you guys wanted to talk about?
How many bugs have they patched, Ironic?
1,800.
Wow.
1,800.
1,800 fixes was what it said on the tweet, right? And then I think it was 300 bugs reported on R6 fix. So, I mean, damn big thumbs up to the community for that.
What have we had?
It isn't
10,
just
10 patch notes since this test server went live?
I feel like
they've been bang on it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
That's another thing. Ella's recoil.
Well,
That's something.
Yeah.
They've readjusted that now, haven't they?
Yeah.
So it's only, what is it, the first
11 bullets now, I believe.
11 bullets. Well, that's enough for me.
Well, so that's the thing. It's an amazing gun for 11 bullets, and then after that, just stop shooting and then try again.
Yeah.
But I will always despise the idea of things getting so random that I might kill someone I didn't even intend to.
Yeah.
I want to fail because my ability to control it isn't good enough. I don't want to succeed because it just kicked to the left when I was missing. It'll leave a bad taste in your mouth killing someone after the 11th bullet with that gun.
So one of the interesting things with that, though, is that's actually in the live. With the previous iteration, the Ella buff was in the live servers. And correct me if I'm wrong, that Ella was played at the Invitational. So I wonder if there's something that they saw there, or I mean, clearly there must have been something they saw in the data that was like, whoa.
Wasn't it pick rate?
It may have been.
Her presence went way up. So I think they put either something on Twitter or Reddit. I read that where they said that more than anticipated, right? So obviously her presence went up, but like way up. So they've just sort of scaled it back down. That's why
we got to be fair with that operator as well. The recall was so bad before that at least I felt like you never saw. Well, not never. It was damn rare you saw her in like high plat diamond champion rank, unless people were spawn peeking with a pistol. It was really rare I saw people play the Scorpion, and then the second they buffed it, there was not a single game without an Ella, right? Like everyone had to try the new Ella recall, and it was maybe a little bit too good. I'll give them that. I just find it I find it an extreme way to fix it by making it just uncontrollable. Buck's a really good example of good recall, in my opinion. It's something where if you practice, you can actually get good at it. But if you can't put your bullets in like a chest-sized target on 7 meters reliably without having them jump, a couple feet to the left and right all the time, then I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone out there that are able to really control it skillfully. If there are, then I rest my case and I need to go back and practice more. But for me, it seems rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tested it, but the 11 shots with the newer, better recoil. Yeah. So if you just burst it, am I right in thinking that would just reset it back to 0?
Yes.
So you could fire the whole magazine in 3 or 4 bursts, say. Okay, so that's workable.
You can just reset, or you can even do smaller bursts, right? And that'll solve the problem. But I think then it should be applied to more things. Then it should be in there to make sure that people burst instead of full auto, right? Why on that gun? Of all guns, why doesn't it happen with Jaeger or any other like super used guns? None of the attacking assault rifles have it. Not a single one has this extreme random recoil. It's only ever Defender or Saddam SMGs, right?
Yeah.
SMG 12 is a good example of something that I don't think should be that crazy left and right. Double the vertical recoil, and then half the horizontal.
Yeah. Make
it so people have to pull from top of their mouse pad to the bottom of their mouse pad just to keep it on target. That's fine. But sitting like this when you play and you're trying to aim from one target to another, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old. I can't keep up. I really can't.
All right, so enough with the test server here. Project A is something that's been hyped up for a while. We've now actually seen gameplay. Okay, it's actually going to be called Valorant. They're dropping the Project A, and the game is going to be called Valorant. It's being produced by Riot Games, the makers of League of Legends, and there's a ton of hype around this, and understandably so. I mean, League of Legends is the biggest game in the world. Is that fair to say? It's one of, if not the biggest game in the world. I think it's widely regarded as one of the most popular eSport titles in the world. It's up there definitely with CSGO as far as that is compared. So they released the first gameplay we've seen today, and maybe I'll show that on the YouTube version of this. I'm not sure. At least I'll try and show a snippet as we're talking about it here. But what did you guys think about what you saw from the gameplay?
I like Pete's initial reaction.
I was shocked actually when I saw the first bit of this. Flank said to me before we went live, "Oh, have you seen the gameplay?" So Zyronic sent me over the YouTube URL. I clicked on. I was like, "It's like CS:GO." I was like, basically mega disappointed, to be honest with you. And really, right from the start of the video, it just looks kind of like CS:GO. Basically, you're running around with a knife, and then just. I don't know. Maybe someone else sees something different, but CS:GO plus Overwatch is what I'm seeing. What did I say? What was my reaction, Zoronik? I actually forget now.
So why does it feel like I'm watching CS:GO with heroes?
Yeah. It's the CS:GO with heroes is basically what I thought. But I understand that that's pretty ignorant of me to just perhaps say that, and it might turn out to be an amazing game. But that is my first reaction to that trailer.
I mean, I played a lot of CS, and I'm in the same boat. My issue with that game isn't even, it's not even the art style, the layout, or the fact that, I mean, seemingly they haven't really invented anything for the game. It's not like it has much new stuff. I just don't like their PR with we're going to war against Pika's advantage, or we know that tick rate is important. It feels like they're just kind of living off these buzzwords that need context to mean anything. There's a beautiful video out on YouTube somewhere where I think it's 3-Click Phillips, I think he's called, a CS guy who talks about a test they did in CS where they had people try 128 tick, 64 tick, and a 40 tick placebo, I think it was, in a custom game. And so in CS you can tell your tick rate by how your smoke grenades throw, because there are certain smokes that you can only throw on 128 tick because the physics works different. And your movement works a little bit different. So your strafe jumping will be much better on 128 tick than on 64. But they turned all of that off in a custom game, and then all of a sudden no one could tell.
Interesting.
And that's with shooting other players. That's with shooting bots. That's literally the best test environment you could possibly be in. And people got it right less than chance. And this is like, it was open to the entire CS community. So people can go out and research and find data on this if they want. But it's just, like, the tick rate means something, but it only means something if you compare it to everything else, right? Like, how's a lag comp set up? How does the game react to 100 millisecond ping difference? Also, when they say that, they put out a statement there saying that 70% of the players would get 35 ping or less. So when you say ping, do you mean the latency or do you mean round trip time? Because Siege used to show us round trip time, if I remember correctly. It used to show us like the way to the server and the way back. And I think now it shows the way to the server and not the return. And like, people felt like they got lower ping when that was implemented, but it was just because it only shows one way instead. So a lot of these technical terms they're throwing out there, like, you got to be really into this stuff to really keep up and understand, like, if it has a value or not. I don't even get half of it, man. And when you sit there and read about it, it just seems like it's this cheap blow at every other game for, yeah, we're going to get it right. We're going to have anti-cheat on launch. I mean, fair enough. They got a 1-up on Siege for that one, because it took a while for us. But, dude, there's going to be cheaters. There's going to be cheaters 2 days into that game. 100%. If it's going to be competitive, they're going to be there. There's going to be people that complain about their ping, the lag, whatever. Quake had very, very low tick rate. I never, ever, when I played Quake 3 Arena, heard anyone complain about lag. Unless people were skipping around on the screen, right? So, I don't know. I mean, I hope it's going to be a good game, because the more good games we have, the better it is for the entire community. I just think it's getting a lot of hype that isn't earned yet. It's a lot of empty words so far.
Yeah, I understand the hype to a certain degree. Like, whenever I see that Riot Games is making it, I'm excited, because I don't play League of Legends, but I do know that they obviously League of Legends is a very successful game. I know that that it's a very polished game. Whenever they're releasing new content and stuff, it's like it just seems like Riot Games does a really good job of making really polished games and products. And as a first-person shooter fan, the fact that they are entering the first-person shooter market, it does make me somewhat excited. I saw some headlines that were comparing it to Siege, and I don't look at that. I don't see how you can compare that to Siege any more than any other. The only thing I saw when watching that gameplay and comparing it to Siege was they're both first-person shooters, and they both have heroes/operators. There was definitely a way more magical element to those heroes and their abilities. more similar to Overwatch than what I would say Siege. I think the reason that they're avoiding the Overwatch comparison is because they don't want people. I think they've recognized that people don't like ultimates in games, and Overwatch has these crazy ultimates that are insta kills. You know what I mean? And I don't think that this game is going to have any of that. I think that the way I've seen it described is that the abilities or the ults or whatever you want to call them are going to be tools that will help you win gunfights and stuff like that. And from what I saw, that was kind of there for the most part. I mean, there was and I think in the first clip you see a dude throw up a wall, and then the other operator or hero send out a gadget that allowed you to see all the enemies through walls, and then he just kills somebody. You know what I mean? That's okay. That's pretty strong. I mean, but yeah, I don't see how you can compare it to Siege when it doesn't have destruction. And when you're not aiming down sights. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only weapon that was aiming down sights was the sniper. It's literally, I mean, it's CSGO with heroes. Like, you don't aim down sights. Yeah. You run around with a knife. You buy your class at the beginning of the round. Like, it's CSGO with heroes.
That shocked me.
And, yeah, I mean, from a creative perspective, I kind of, like, look at that and I'm like, man, like, imagine making this game and not bringing anything new to the table. But on the other side, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Clearly the CSGO formula works and it provides a good setting for competitive play. So if they can tweak that with the hero element, and maybe that is something that could be a good formula.
I think there's a lot of there's a lot to be seen. I mean, sure, we've only seen the trailer, but the CSGO formula kind of works for people that are really into CS. It doesn't work for anyone else, right? Because the idea of recoil leaving your crosshair is really unintuitive to most people. I played a ton of CS, and when you then go to a game where you can ADS, where your bullets hit where you aim, it's a lot different. Can you move while shooting? Are you accurate while moving? Right, that instantly decides if the COD players will have the same interest in it as the CSGO players, for example. And then we hear all these people saying that, well, I mean, it's been kind of a meme, right? Everyone's gone pro in in Project A now. Let's maybe wait, because I've heard that every single time a new game came out and people don't really deliver on those promises.
Yeah.
But it kind of looks like, did you guys ever play Dirty Bomb or see it?
Mm-mm. Yeah, that was a free-to-play, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Dirty Bomb's downfall was cheaters. It just, within a month, the game was messed up beyond belief because of like an influx of cheaters. But it has some really interesting mechanics. It was kind of cartoonish, but still pulled some of the proper like eSports shooter stuff to the table. The wallhack stuff we saw in the trailer looks straight out of Blacklight Retribution, where you had your HRV, Hyper Reality Visor, I think it was called. You could press a key and you'd get this vision, the wallhack that just looks through the entire map. You could see every player. And every single player in the game had that. So it was to speed up the game and make camping literally impossible. But you couldn't shoot while you did it. So, like you said, with like in terms of direction, I'm not even talking art direction, but like gameplay direction for that game, it just seems like they took good components from every other game. And I mean, that's great, but a little bit of a cheap way to get there if you don't bring some new stuff in.
I think what I would add to that is, I would challenge anyone to watch that gameplay and not immediately think CSGO in their head if they've seen any CSGO. I would challenge anyone because it just immediately reminds you of CSGO. And I think what is a little bit disappointing about that is they've created this brand new game that has got nothing to do with Counter-Strike, and yet you immediately get that vibe from it, whereas they had an opportunity to do something really completely original, like Ubisoft did with Rainbow Six Siege. Okay, it's got that competitive first-person shooter aspect of 5 versus 5, but you wouldn't look at a bit of gameplay from Rainbow Six Siege and go, "Oh, that's like CS:GO." It's nothing. It looks nothing like it. So whereas when you look at that, that's just totally the vibe you're getting, even if it does have this kind of fantasy element, which I personally think is disappointing. Because if I was one of those developers just sat in an office, just basically trying to ape off CSGO, I'd be like, why don't we just do something that's ours and own it?
It's funny because there's this game, I think it's in beta right now, made by a guy called Too Good. If people are into eSport, they probably know him. He had a lot to do with Quake, and played some World of Warcraft back in the day as well. But he made a game called, or at least worked on making a game as well, called Diabolical or something, which was it's based off Quake 3, I think. And they added in bugs and glitches on purpose that were used in old school Quake. So something like corner clipping. If you moved with enough speed, you can clip through like a certain amount of pixels on a corner, so it doesn't stop you. Like they added in all of these small things that actually take in a modern engine. It takes effort to put them into the game, but to keep that old school competitive movement of an arena shooter, and that looks less like Quake than Project A looks like CS.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be a copy of Quake.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy in that respect. In all honesty, I don't get me wrong. I'm excited to play it. I hope it's really good. I think it probably will be really good. You know, one of the things that immediately jumped out to me is it'll probably run on about any PC. I mean, it looks super simple. The maps look pretty small from what I saw. Like CS. CS will run on a lot of different PCs. I mean, yeah, you might not get the highest frames, but I mean, it'll run on a lot. It's a lot easier to run than what Rainbow Six Siege is, for example. One thing I haven't heard, are they going to release it on console? That's a big question.
I was wondering that. I was wondering that.
I don't think they're gonna.
That's a missed opportunity for that. Why? Why not? You know what I mean? Like,
because I think they wanna do it then on the eSport market. Yeah. The console's not gonna have anything to do with that. That's for sales and for enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to make a first-person shooter for console and then make a league for it. I just don't believe that. And they're 100% focused on the eSport market. All branding goes towards that. But that's a little bit of a scary thing as well, because every game that starts out that way rarely does very well.
Yeah.
It has to be kind of organic. Mm-hmm. Battalion, I don't know if anyone remembers that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole spiel was that this is going to be, pro Call of Duty back and added in the right way, competitive, and boom.
Yeah.
I mean, Riot has money. They have big boy money, and they can afford to make it right and put the stuff in. But again, like, there needs to be incentive for teams to join in. Viewership's going to, I mean, with the hype right now, if they release it soon enough, viewership's going to be there just around the hype. I don't know if it can pull enough. I think people are going to see that it's CS, and it's just going to be with people they don't know instead. It's going to be hard to pull people into that and really get them hooked, because I can't speak for anyone else, but if I watch CS, I'm kind of invested in the players that I watch as well, right? Like, there's some story to that. Who's playing on what teams and who's notoriously good for playing this certain place or using utility, stuff like that. And communities build stories around that. It takes a long time. I really hope it's going to be good.
I just think that anybody who comes from a Call of Duty background has a hard time accepting a game or really getting into a game where you can't ADS. And I mean, Call of Duty is where a lot of people started their FPS journeys. I know that, there's old, but that's like the first time that I really started taking FPSs like serious was playing Call of Duty Search and Destroy. And I think there's a lot of people out there like that. And so that's why, I mean, I've tried CSGO several times and it's never really grabbed a hold of me. And I think that's a big reason why I want to aim down sights.
I mean, the whole idea of ADSing isn't, like, the reason it wasn't in the older games was because it was difficult to make.
Right.
And now it's like a decision. CS didn't have it because old school Quake and old school Source and Quake engine are kind of, intertwined and a little bit built on each other. it was hard to make that. Like when you ADS'd in Quake 3 Arena, it just zoomed in your screen. Like the gun model didn't change. You didn't even move it. It just changed your field of view basically. Then we got different technology, and ADSing became a thing that we could do a little bit easier. And now they're taking it away. I don't get it.
I think there's a danger with this game that they're trying to it seems as though they're trying to appeal to two crowds. You've got the hardcore CSGO gamers that are all about the tick rate, and obviously they're very concerned about people cheating or hacking. And obviously that's in a lot of their pre-press before this game comes out. They're talking about stuff like that. And then you've got this other crowd that are big into Overwatch and hero shooters, games like that. And they've tried to kind of amalgamate them. And I think there's some risk, because I don't know if there necessarily is such a big crossover. I'm sure they've done their market research and think maybe there is. But there must be some risk associated with that, because it feels jarring to me to see these two elements in CSGO, basically.
I'm just always afraid of that, because when they release this, like, who's gonna be their players? Like, who's gonna be the players that we watch if we start watching it? Because, I mean, Siege took a while to get the players that we have today that we're watching, right? I mean, I used to play in that Pro League thing, and that doesn't count, because, like, I'm not good enough to be there compared to what we're watching today, right? Year 1 Siege Pro League looks kind of funny if you were to watch it today, compared to what we see at Invitational, right? So is Project A going to be like, is it going to be the leftovers from Overwatch and CS, or is any successful competitive player from one game really going to chance it and jump to a whole new platform, new movement, new guns, new everything, and then hope that they can get picked up, noticed, and I mean, at least people are going to know who they are. Doesn't mean they're going to perform well. It's such a gamble.
I just think, like, I
Money
hate
talks,
that.
though.
I hate that we're even like, let's think about that for a second. I hate that we're even talking about video games like this. It should be, here's what it should be. Is it going to be fun to play? And then let's go from there. It shouldn't be, well, I'm a pro in Rainbow Six Siege. Do I hop on this train before I've even played the game? You know what I mean? Like, everything feels, I feel like we're taking the romance out of esports when we talk about them this way. Because at the end of the day, it should be, I love this video game and I'm really good at it, so I'm going to go pro, or I'm going to try and go pro. I don't want to see it like I'm a professional video game player and I'm hopping from title to title and I'm going to hop on the next hot thing.
I would agree until you get there.
Yeah, it's securing that day one audience as well, bringing names over. That's why you'll no doubt see some of the biggest streamers will be playing this. They'll do some sort of sponsor around it. And I think maybe part of the success of this game will be around the money that is in there to promote it from the beginning. And like, do you recall when Apex launched last year? And there was a widespread Twitch coverage of the game. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant marketing campaign that went on there. And I
had really good marketing.
Yeah, I suspect they'll do something like that for this one.
I think everyone learned from Apex that it just drop a metric ton of money on Twitch coverage, get all the big streamers to play it, and you like no trailer you could make is going to be as good as when you log on Twitch and you just see every streamer that you can think of playing your game. Like, that's the best way, right? But with the video games should be fun. I am the biggest proponent of that. I truly stand by, if you're playing video games and you're not having fun, then you're wasting your time. But the second it's a job, that has to go away. If you do things for fun, then you're not willing to go far enough to win. I don't think fun can be an important aspect anymore if you wanna make it your job, or if you want to be the best or win.
Right.
Then fun can come some other day.
Well, I think
once you win.
I think that we're going. I think we're going a little bit like two different directions there. Like, I agree with what you're saying there. Like, if you are a pro Rainbow Six Siege player, then like you have to do more than just have fun in the game. Like, if you're not having fun in a scrim, that doesn't mean you get to quit your scrim and go do something else because you're not having fun. But I guess where I'm coming from is like, okay, if I'm one of those people out there right now that's putting I'm a pro Project A player in my bio. It's already in my Twitter bio, and there are people out there, dude. I've already seen it that have that in their bio. So okay, the game comes out. Like I'm already biased. Like I'm not gonna sit there and like tell my streamer audience like, hey, you know, I'm not gonna be able to give them. I want this. Like I feel like my career is riding on this game being good. You know what I mean? So therefore, whenever I'm playing it, it just like it doesn't like I just want I don't know. I just don't want esports to get to the point where you have people who are recognized as the best first-person shooter athletes in the world, and they will hop from title to title based upon where the money is. Like I want the pro scene to be made up of players who have grinded a game that they've loved and that they're passionate about, and have risen to the level of professional player within that title.
That's 100% where my slight I don't know, hate for this unreleased game comes from, is the idea of making something for esport, because esport has always been a community that got together around a game and then decided to compete in something that they found enjoyable to try and find out who's the better one. It was never intended to, like, I mean, goddamn, some of the first esports didn't even, like, multiplayer was a second component of the game, right? The single player was the important thing. And then people got together and played against each other, and things weren't balanced at all. There was not even patches. Like, you had broken stuff, and then we agreed in between ourselves that, okay, you don't use that weapon, or you don't use this, or we can't do this. So we came to like verbal agreements on what weapons were okay and not okay to use in tournaments. And then it got bigger and bigger, and that's what we have that is so strong. Because in sports, the rules are kind of there, right? Like they have been for a long time. You're not going to change it. You're just a player. But in esport, it feels like you as a player actually have a little bit of a say in how things are. Even to this day, even something like a CS or a Siege, players have a little bit of a say. That they aren't the ones running it, and they, of course, never should be, because there's a competitive bias in it. But they have something to say, and that has a lot of value. But when you make when you have a company going out and saying we're making this for esports, then it's a giant middle finger to the rest of everyone that just plays video games for fun, because then right off the bat you're like, well, this is probably not for me. It's going to be way too mechanical. It's only going to be for the good players. And it, like, I haven't heard them talk about anything in terms of their arcade mode or fun stuff, or like, what are we going to be doing? Okay, they're going to have a training ground. That's really good. Really good for people that want to get better. But is it a game I can play with, 9 friends that are a very, very different skill rating and have fun? Because for me, that would be important.
Yeah.
Because not all my friends have the same amount of dedication for video games that I have. And some of them are much younger and 10 times better than me. And I don't want to get my shit kicked in over and over and over again and not have anything to do, right? So I think we agree on that topic completely. I don't like it when it's promoted as an esport game before we know or have anyone to compete in it. It's like putting out a new sport with no athletes. It seems weird. Make a game, then have people come.
Yeah, and I've said before, and I've said this before in reference to Fortnite, esports are built, not made, and I still hold true to that, because as much money as Fortnite dumped into their esports program, I'm sure that some people found that enjoyable to watch, but man,
it's a spectacle. It's not esports.
I just don't think that. I don't think that it doesn't matter how much money they put into Fortnite esports. I just don't think that is an appealing esport. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't take skill. I'm not saying that the best players in the world aren't extremely talented. I'm just saying that as somebody watching that, it is not an entertaining thing to watch.
PUBG suffered from the same thing, so I don't know if it's something to do with the genre a little bit, the whole battle royale thing.
I think it's both, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it just being a spectacle, and then that's it. Like, we can watch 100 people compete and see who comes out on top. Let's just keep it separate from a league or a tournament setting or a major where we have 20 teams or 30 teams or whatever, how many teams that go up against each other, and we have one big grand final and things kind of build up over a weekend. You can't have that in a battle royale. You just can't.
Yeah.
And no matter how much money you throw at it'll only ever succeed if the community is there, because that amount of money has to give an ROI at some point. If you don't get a return on investment, then it's not going to keep going, and you can't buy viewership. You just can't. Maybe for the first year, maybe for 2. But Apex was a good example of how high it can go and then how low it can drop again. Because they got all the big ones to play it, and a couple months later, everyone kind of forgot about it. It was down at the bottom again. Then a new DLC came out. They paid a lot of streamers to play it again, and then it was back up. It's not very natural or genuine. It doesn't make you want to click in, except for when there's high viewers, because you want to find out, what happened now, right?
Mm-hmm. I think the Apex comparison is interesting because it did start with no barrier to entry. So, if you're just the slightest bit interested, you don't have to pay $30, $40. You can just download the game and go, I quite like it, or no, I don't like this. I don't know if this game, is it going to be free to play, or are you going to have to pay?
Everybody thinks it will be, yes.
Okay. Well, that would certainly help its chances, I feel.
It'll definitely not be a $60 game.
Mm.
Yeah.
I also think it would obviously, I don't want to go back over old ground, but it would obviously benefit it so much if it did come out on the next gen of consoles as a bare minimum. But we'll have to just see where it goes with that.
That'd be the big play. Next gen console with mouse and keyboard, cross-platform play, cross-platform competition. Ooh.
Yeah.
Hire me ride.
It'd be cool. All right, let's get back to Siege here. I know we've been talking a lot in our DMs about improvement. Each of us, playing at different levels and trying to get better and improve at this game. Pete, take us away with that. What's been going on with you and Siege?
So I've been talking to various people. So I suppose where we should start it with this podcast, we're all at different levels. I think we'd agree with that. I describe Flanked as being a kind of like a try-hard, someone who's in. No, would you agree with that? You really care. You really care. You make the effort. You're always trying to improve. Zyronic's the Pro League analyst of the podcast, and I'm like the low gold guy that's always trying to glean a little bit of information from people, and I try to put forward the casual perspective of the game as well. But I suppose within the past sort of couple of weeks, I've been having more discussions with people and trying to look up information and trying to learn more and more about Rainbow Six Siege, because I sort of when I play ranked, I tend to solo queue, and I do okay, but and I fall where the masses of Rainbow Six Siege falls, which is in the sort of like low gold area of the game. And if you look at the player base of Rainbow Six Siege, actually, although everyone in the YouTube comments is a diamond or a champion, the actual vast majority of players are silver or gold. And so one thing I've really been trying to do is look at ways that I can improve. And so I wanted an aspect of this podcast which really queried you to and got your feedback on how people listening or watching could improve, and also, quite selfishly, for my own personal journey in getting better at Rainbow Six Siege. Now, to give you an outline, what I'm doing at the moment is I've looked at various videos on YouTube. Zyronic has a really good one about improving your aim, and there's all sorts of other ones out there. A lot of it is general knowledge now about, warming up in in T-Hunt and doing various bits and pieces. And I've tried to sort of create my own schedule, if you like, of training drills that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis to get better at the game. And I don't want to get into the specifics of what I'm doing, because perhaps that'll be for a later video or podcast when I know it's worked. But I'm already seeing some improvements in what I'm doing, and I wanted to get your feedback as to what advice you'd give, because the sort of information I've learned so far, apart from improving your mechanical skills at the game, is I feel you probably, to get better, you probably need to play with better players. That's the one thing I think that won't necessarily improve your mechanical skills, but I think it's going to improve your knowledge of the game, where you should be at certain times of a round, which operators you should be picking, which I will say I'm pretty good at. With regards to operators, I was looking through my top operators on defense and attack, and one of my top operators on defense is Mirror, Legion, Valkyrie. I bloody hate Mirror. That shocked me. I absolutely hate playing Mirror. And then on attack, it's Ying, Thermite, Thatcher. Just utility. It's not Ashen Jaeger, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I heard a really good explanation in terms of improvement for, like, I don't know, like grasping the reality of why it doesn't feel like you improve as fast as you do. So imagine you're doing martial arts or something. You're kicking this this punching bag over and over and over again. And then one day you get in the ring and someone hits you, and it's the first time you've ever been hit. Now all that training that went into that punching bag is not going to help because you're standing there, shell-shocked, completely fuzzled about what just happened. This hurts. I had that when I was, 14, 15. I thought I was a god in COD. Like, every pop game, I was that guy in the YouTube comment. I could not lose, right? I got so many kills. I was always the top player, and my team was always bad. I was convinced of it. Then I got into this five-stack group, and we started playing scrims. And the first scrim I get into, I only barely carry my own weight, and I was so confused because everyone else I met in public games got smacked, and I didn't realize that if you play against people that are at your own skill level, you're not gonna stand out, and that's pretty much where you want to be. Ideally play against people that are a little bit better than you, because if you're the more you're at the top of the scoreboard, the less you're gonna improve. Like that, I think that's the best way to look at it. You don't want to be at the top of the scoreboard. Then the second you get there, you want to play against someone that's better, right? Or maybe you want to push yourself a little bit harder. Try some more risky stuff, or if you have a lot of kills, trying to figure out like when did they actually happen. I tried to do that in Siege and look at the rounds where I have a good amount of kills versus the round where I don't have so many kills, but where we won both rounds. The ones where I have a lot of, or not rounds, maps, sorry. The ones where I have a lot of kills normally comes down to like 1 or 2 good rounds that, I got a 4K and then a 3K. Well, that's 7 kills in this one map. They stand out when they stack with all the other stuff, right? But then you can have another game where you have 6 kills, but 3 of them was winning a 1v1. I'd say that's way more impactful. That's 3-1 rounds in a more stressful situation than it is to walk in as a 5-man stack and then, pick up all the stragglers that had a little bit of HP and refragging the rest of your team. The scoreboard is like the pit of doom when it comes to improving, because people can find all their excuses there. It's the ping, it's the enemy team, it's the one guy who doesn't have frags on your team, right? Like there's nothing good for you on that scoreboard. Nothing.
The interesting thing about that point is, if as a point of measuring how good you are as a player, as you get better, you're going to play better players anyway. So you might always feel as though you're struggling, even though you're getting better. So if you're in gold 4 and you get to gold 2, of course you have that measurement of being at gold 2, but you might still get a negative KD or whatever. But you're a better player. You're just facing off against better players. And the other thing that comes home to me hearing you say that is because I solo queue so often, and anyone that solo queues will know this feeling. It's about, because even though I am where I am in ranked, and that's exactly where I deserve to be, no excuses, you will still have those moments where you're like, God, why is he, we need hard breach. It's Clubhouse. We're going to need hard breach, right? If it's either of the 2 top floors, you're going to need it. If they go down to Armory, you're going to need it. And you start questioning operator picks, when you run in with like the crazy operator selection. And I think you basically have to suck it, and you have to stop asking those why questions, because as long as you continue to solo queue, that's never going to go away. Those random people that you're playing with, they're going to pick the operators they want to pick, and quite rightly so. So the answer to all those why questions that you ask, why is he spawning over there when we're going to need him to open the wall this side of the map, all of that stuff, the only answer to that is to play in a 5-stack.
Yeah.
You'll never, ever get a satisfying answer to that while you solo queue, unless you're already into platinum or top of gold or what have you. You'll always have to deal with that.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't know. Like this is such a huge conversation, and anytime that I'm talking about stuff like this, I always like to throw the disclaimer out. And like I probably said it before in this podcast that so often when we're talking about this stuff, we're going to talk about rank, and rightfully so. That's like the measuring stick for your performance in Rainbow Six Siege, but the fact of the matter is that your rank is a reflection of 10 people's performance in the games that you've played. You are one of those people, okay? And if you are a really good player, you are much more likely to have a higher rank than somebody who's not a really good player. But at the end of the day, there are 9 other people who are factors in your rank. So if you're solo queuing and you get unlucky and you get those really toxic potato teammates consistently, your rank is going to be reflected by that. If you are in a 5-stack and you're being absolutely carried by the other 4 players, your rank is going to reflect that. But it may not actually reflect how you are improving and how you're doing as a player. Okay, so I always like to throw that out in the beginning because I think that's important. Because coming back to your solo queue point, in my opinion, if you are somebody who plays a lot in silver, low gold, you should be solo queuing, and not exclusively solo queuing, but you shouldn't be afraid to solo queue, because if you can solo queue from silver through gold into plat, if you can do that on a consistent basis, I think that you can safely say, okay, I'm good at killing people in Rainbow Six Siege. Because at the end of the day, when you're solo queuing, yes, you can do your part as a teammate to play Thermite and open a wall, or Thatcher and be there and doing your role like that. All that stuff counts, and all that stuff is good to do when you're solo queuing. But if you consistently solo queue up to platinum, I think it says that you have learned how to effectively kill people in this game. And that's going to be the one constant through all those games as a solo queuer. And I think, as I think about, where I feel like I'm qualified to give advice, I have been somebody who has been able to solo queue to platinum for several seasons on both console and PC. So that's kind of like my wheelhouse, is like trying to help somebody who is looking at trying to solo queue out of silver, gold into those platinum ranks. And as we go along here, maybe I'll talk about, what I'm trying to improve at right now as somebody who's trying to take it to the next level and progress through the platinum ranks with a 5-stack. It's kind of like 2 conversations in my opinion. But I do feel like there's a lot of players out there in those silver gold ranks who are absolutely terrified to solo queue. But when you solo queue, you learn some very valuable lessons. You learn how to handle yourself on the scoreboard. And I know Zoronic just said that the scoreboard doesn't matter, and he's absolutely right in that perspective. When you're playing with a 5-stack, especially, the scoreboard does not matter. But a lot of times when you're solo queuing, if you get to the point where you can carry, that's when you really start to see yourself leveling up in rank consistently as a solo queuer. And I think that if you learn how to carry in those ranks, once you get in a 5-stack in your platinum ranks, you are going to be a much better teammate than somebody who can't make their way through the silver and gold ranks by themselves, if that makes sense at all.
But are there some specifics? You talk about learning that. Are there some specifics we can get into to help me and also to help our listeners? And also, I suppose the one contrary point I would say to I largely agree with everything you've just said, but the point I suppose I would make is with how the MMR works now, if you do dig yourself into a hole, like I've had games where, I've done quite well, I've picked the correct operators, but as you say, you are in there with 9 other people, 4 people on your team, and if they're really, doing daft things, you can find yourself falling down through the ranks. So that it's not as though you reset to gold 4 every season. You get to start afresh. You can actually get to a point where it's like, bloody hell, I'm really in a hole here, and I need to.
Okay, if you think that you deserve to be high gold or platinum and you start solo queuing and you slide all the way down into bronze and you aren't absolutely destroying the people in bronze, I got news for you. Point. You don't deserve to be a plat. I'm sorry.
I got a more brutal one than that. So in every game I've ever played or I've ever seen anyone play, there is a lot of people that say that they always get bad teammates. I've never heard someone come and say they're the bad teammate. There's something extremely wrong with how we look at this. So this is going to be like a two portion spiel. So if we say there's 3 things you could be doing when you play ranked, right? Either you're just playing for fun and literally just for the goal of fun. Then let's not worry too much about the rank. Let's just play the game, and then you end up where you are, and you have fun there, because that's most likely where your natural skill allows you to be and still enjoy. Or you're like a semi-sadistic person like me and want to play in a rank that's a little bit more difficult than where you belong. So I managed to get myself into ranks where I'm way out of my depth most of the time. And I much more enjoy it there, because when I win or when I do something, it feels really rewarding. It also means that there's going to be a lot of downfalls. Like, there's going to be a lot of times when I get clapped. There's going to be a lot of people that are much better than me. And I have to work way harder, I feel like, than the ones I play against. It seems like the ones I play against can kind of do it with ease, and they don't need to worry about the next step and the next step and the next step. Whereas if I don't kind of have those things predicted, I'm just not fast enough reactionary, or my mechanical skill doesn't allow me to keep up with them. So I'm in the spot where I enjoy the fight. Like, I like not winning. I like having a good game. I'd rather lose but have a good game than I'd win just for the sake of winning. I don't care if I'm on the top of the scoreboard, and I kind of disagree with the idea of try to see if you can carry. I will say I'm with you on, if you want to rank up, just carry your team. If you're solo queuing, make that your goal. But I think you will become a worse team player by doing that, because once you finally get in, I don't want 5 people or 4 people on my team that all try to carry. I want 4 people that are all willing to give up a little bit of their individual skill to make the team better. So I want the good Jaeger to not, after he got 2 kills, instantly go out looking for the rest, right? Because we have the number advantage. Chill your ego, come back to site. Let's hold this. We can sit still for 20 seconds and win the round. Or we can have everyone sprint out and look for the last kills because they all want to be on top of the scoreboard. And then we lose. And I've had that a lot of times. Like yesterday and the day before and the day before. We'll be in like a 4v1 or something like that. And people will get the jitters, right? They get the rank jitters. They're like, I have 7 kills. The other guy have 8 kills. There's 1 guy left. Ooh, I got to go get it.
Yeah.
And they'll go hunting that one. And then you have the third one. The third type of rank player. That's the ones that want to go competitive. If you want to go competitive, then disregard everything, stop looking for tips, and start goddamn practicing. Because anyone that actually wants to get good should stop looking at 10 quick tips to improve. That's something for me and for the casual player and people that want to have fun and enjoy and play at a spare time activity. They're great for them. But if your goal is to go competitive, then stop looking for quick ways to improve and do the hard, dirty work. I think that's the one thing that people are too scared to tell, because I'd be shooting myself a little bit in the foot by telling everyone that says they want to compete to stop looking at tips and tricks. Right? Like, that's kind of the spiel for a lot of us, that we try to show some new stuff. But I'll promise you, the people that grind it through didn't ask about sense. They didn't ask about this. They didn't ask about that. They're not trying their keyboard in 500 different ways. They do things that feel natural for them, and then they grind. And they grind a lot. And if you want to catch up with a guy who has 6,000 hours in Siege, and you have 200, well, you got 5,800 hours to catch up. and it's probably gonna take that amount of time. Look at pro CS players. Simple has like 15,000 hours in CS, right? If you want to get there, you gotta give up some stuff. But I think for the three of us, I think we're all in like kind of the sadistic category where we want it to still be a little bit of a competition, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Pete, you're looking to improve, and I don't assume you're looking to go pro, but you want to get better, right?
I want to. So if we do this podcast again at the end of the year, I want to be like solidly at the top of gold.
Champion.
Yeah, not that no, I don't want to even get. Well, I mean, I'm not going to limit my bloody ambition here, but I would like to have improved enough as a player where I'm solidly at the top of gold, bottom of plat. Season in, season out. If we are going, I mean, we use that as the measuring stick, right? The rank system, and like I say, I've got my own training thing that I've sort of taken these bits and pieces from other things, how I learnt guitar and how I built muscle memory doing that. And I've sort of put all this into a Google Doc that I'm working on. And I'm doing these drills, and I've shown you to, like a couple of things behind the scenes where just in a few days you can see my muscle memory is really improving. So if I continue that for a prolonged period of time, I know that will improve. But I mean, muscle memory in Rainbow Six Siege is just one thing. I mean, this isn't CSGO. I mean, you need to know so many different things, where to be at certain points, which operators to play, maps, verticality. I mean, it's just tip of the iceberg, really. But I feel if you can improve as a mechanical player, it's not the be-all and end-all, but those 50-50s you're losing, or perhaps you're putting yourself in a poor position, you can change that, and you can start having more impact on your team. Like, for example, one of the things in one of the drills, I suppose, in my little program I've devised for myself is something I took from you, where in your particular video you talked about playing T-Hunt, and one of the things is as you round a corner, the way I would describe it is you sort of like, you're not wide peaking, but you're following, I suppose, the apex of the corner round with your sight, and you don't want to bring your sight back to the AI bot, but almost have it cover over so as the AI bot's revealed, your optic is on them, so you're not going past them and having to flick back all the time, because that's wasted time. So that's one of the things I practice for about, I don't know, 20 minutes a day. Instead of just going in T-Hunt and running around, mindlessly, I go through the map super methodically, and I'm checking angles where I even know the bots won't be, because when you play Outback on T-Hunt, I must have played it 200 times this week. I know where the bots are going to be, where they potentially could be, but I'm still going around and checking. And I feel that particular thing is a habit forming thing, right? So we all drive a specific way to work, or we go about our daily routine in a specific way, but that's because we've formed habits to do that. And I feel that you can form habits for playing a video game better. So that thing that you've showed in your YouTube video, if you take that to the nth degree, you're going to take that actually into how you play the game. Even though I don't know if that, it's about holding the angle at head height as you go around corners, stuff like that. I'm just finding that I'm doing stuff like that a lot better already.
I mean, a lot of it is about being willing to do the boring stuff, right? Like, it's not that fun.
Just, can I interrupt you just really quickly? On the topic of boring stuff, the one thing I do is I listen to a podcast while I do the training. So carry on.
Well, this is going to be much more difficult now.
If you hear my voice while you're playing, that's like instant potato. Like,
+10.
I cancel out any good you may be doing by practicing.
No, that's +10 to mental fortitude.
But the thing is ironic, it is about concentrating on the task at hand, but it doesn't mean you can't have a podcast playing in the background and still take training seriously.
Right.
And the merch we're going to get soon, boys. I think when it comes to practice, a lot of people sit there and they like, at least the main question I get is aim trainers over and over and over again. And there is such an emphasis on it. I feel like there's an emphasis on it because it seems fun and it has aim in the name. So people think that if we just play aim trainers, we're going to be good. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think crosshair placement is many, many, many times more important. Because if I have bad aim, but you're sitting still and I have good crosshair placement, you're going to die. I don't need to aim for that. I need good crosshair placement. Aim is my option 2. I've always looked at it like aim being my out of messing up my crosshair placement. Aim is what I do when I wasn't looking the right place at the right time, or someone appears from a place that I didn't expect I wasn't ready for. So like practicing your flicks, well, fine. That's practicing for all the times where stuff went wrong. It's good to get the muscle memory up, but crosshair placement, just being focused on the game. Like how many people alt tab right after they die, and then they're on Twitter. Like you're not playing the game then, man. Like you're just wasting 3 minutes in a round, and then you're getting on Twitter. You're not in there. You're not focused, right? Like throw your phone on the bed, and then at least for just one goddamn match in a day, just commit yourself to actually focusing about that one match. Put a little bit of pride in your performance. Try to do your best. If you're solo queue, you went in there solo, and you got 4 other people in your team. They might be absolute doofuses, or they might be way better than you. But don't judge them based off one game. Because I know for a fact that every single one of us here has had games with 0 kills in at some point. God, I have them probably once a day. But I'll also have games with 15 kills. If people were to only look at my worst or my best performance, then they'd have no clue how I play.
Yeah.
So you're that person when you play in the solo queue as well, right? You might be carrying your team one game and letting them down another. But if you at least try to do your job, like if you're a Thermite in solo queue, and some people like playing Thermite and some people hate playing Thermite, and that's fine. But if you are the Thermite, try to do your goddamn job. Open the wall. And after that, go do whatever. Don't try to step in and remove the batteries yourself. Ask for someone to do that. I think like that alone will help you so much. Just focus on the game.
Something I'd like to say to like the console players, because neither of you guys have ever played on console, have you?
I have a little bit. Okay. I tried, just very briefly.
Not Siege.
Here's the deal for the console players that are looking to improve.
I'll be right back.
PC players hate whenever I say this, but it's absolutely the truth, and don't let any of them tell you any different. On console, there is a bigger skill gap physically between the worst and the best players in Siege than there is on PC. On PC, everybody can aim. Some people can aim a lot better. Some people have way better mechanical movement and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. There's absolutely a skill gap when it comes to physical skill on Siege on PC. But on console, that gap is gigantic. And the single best thing that you can do on console to improve is improve your aim. And put yourself in a position where you can make quick adjustments with your right stick. So many people on console Siege can only make adjustments with their left stick, which is basically adjusting by strafing, and it's so much slower. If you find yourself resisting to make sight adjustments with your right stick, you need to change that. You need to go into the training grounds and set up drills to allow you to get more comfortable with your right stick adjustments. And if you do that, you will improve at console Siege faster than any other single thing that you can possibly do. And that's a luxury that you actually have on console that we don't on PC, because on console, you will run up against people who will not have good enough aim to punish you for putting yourself in a bad situation. They just won't have the aim to punish you. On PC, for the most part, every player you encounter will punish you if you enter their crosshairs or enter their screen and put yourself in a really bad situation. And on console, that's just not the case. So if you become one of those players who has above average aim, that aim is going to carry you further on console than that same set of skills will on PC. So I wanted to throw that out there. Like, if Pete's looking for like specific stuff, because a lot of what we're talking about here has been like big picture mindset stuff. I think that the biggest thing for me that I started realizing as I was, traversing through the silver gold ranks consistently on my solo queue account was, number one, micro positioning. That's what I call it. But like, I feel like there's a lot of really smart players out there that aren't like super mechanically gifted, but they always take the best position to get into a gunfight. You know, like if you're in a room and you get droned out, a lot of times my mindset has always kind of been, okay, they know where I am. I'm going to go away from here. And I feel like there's a group of players out there that are really tough to deal with, where they don't say, well, I shot the drone. I'm not going to go away from here. I'm going to change my position to put myself in a place that has good cover and also puts me in an unpredictable position. Even though the enemy might know I'm in this room, they're not going to predict that I'm exactly here. And that is going to give me an advantage based upon where the enemy is getting ready to come from. And that simple mindset right there is honestly one of the biggest light bulb moments for me, because I want you to think about like that scenario where, okay, I get droned out. Okay, I'm on defense. They know I'm here now, so I'm going to rotate away. Well, okay, I'm rotating away and maybe I'm going to a different room or whatever. Well, in the process of doing that, who's to say that there's not an enemy that's right outside of this door that's waiting on me that I'm not aware that they're there, and they get an easy kill on me because I'm walking, I'm making sound, maybe I'm sprinting, I don't know they're there, they could have their back turned to me, and I die to somebody I never got a shot off on. Whereas, if you think about the information that you have as that defender, a lot of times that's going to be better information than you have in the majority of your gunfights. You just got droned out. Like let's pretend that you're in theater on Penthouse and you got droned out from the bathroom hatch. Okay, and they brought the drone in there. Okay, there's a lot of possibilities on where the enemy could be coming from, but a lot of times there's a person sitting on that bathroom hatch that's getting ready to push you, and that's good information for you. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of times more information that you're going to get if you rotate away from that room and go somewhere else. And then, start that process all over again. Sure, they know roughly where you are, but find a position in there that gives you an advantage on that person who's likely to push from the Hall of Fame door or the bathroom hatch and win a gunfight. And the next thing that I'll say here that's kind of specific is limit the amount of deaths in which you die to somebody that you did not know existed. Limit the amount of deaths that you have in which you die to somebody that you did not get a shot off of. If you get into a gunfight and you lose, fair enough. But if I'm that roamer and I get droned out and I'm rotating across the map and I die to somebody who's rappelling on a window, I had zero information that they were there, and I died without even getting a shot off, that's just a junk death. Wouldn't it have been better for me to stay there, play my life, and try to win a gunfight based upon an enemy that I have a little bit of information on? That's one of the biggest light bulb moments for me. Whenever I stopped being afraid to stand my ground, take the best micro positioning I can, and try to win a gunfight versus always trying to sneak up behind enemies. Like, that's been my mindset in this game for so long, was like, oh, they know where I am. I need to go somewhere else now so they don't know where I am, and then I'm going to sneak up behind them. No. At some point, you have to start weighing the consequences of staying where you're at and just winning a gunfight, standing your ground, versus trying to, rotate across the map and maybe being an easy kill in the process.
I was just going to say, just on the topic of that, I mean, and that's so true, because that heated moment when you die and it's just like, but for me, I internalize that and I'm so frustrated with myself. But what I've started doing now is actually reviewing that and going, God, I was such an idiot for moving there. Or, in your head, when you said that, in my head, I was picturing like running from Aquabar through past pool table and someone being at the window, or there being a rotate opened up, and I could just picture times where I've made those mistakes. And I think that if you are, perhaps this is more for PC, but if you can do it on console with a capture card, and you can not just look back at all your cool moments, but look back at some of the shockers, there is learning opportunities within them, and I've been finding that myself.
I'm a little against looking at own gameplay to improve if it starts becoming like, let's say you play 10 games and then you watch most of it back, or you watch all your deaths back. I don't think you'll get as much out of it as if you were to just write down the main one thing you messed up. Like, why did you die? Because everyone, even when they come with oh, it was lagging. Why was he there? That was a headshot. I'll accept it. I'll give all of these excuses to you. What could you have done better, right? Okay, he didn't eat the headshot. It's clearly the game's fault. What could you have changed? Start looking at those things. And people, like, how many people die sprinting?
Yeah.
Stop running around all the goddamn time and just hold something. If you're a defender playing a roam, well, maybe go one room closer to site. Mm-hmm. So when your defense dies, you actually have a chance of impacting the round. Because if you run to the other end of the map, there's two options. Either you destroy the team over there, or you're useless. That's pretty much it. Well, and if you want to be the solo king, then just be it a little bit closer to site.
Let me throw a caveat onto what you just mentioned there. Like, if you are doing that deep room on the other side of the map, you are making a play that requires the other team to not be good in order for you to succeed. Basically, you're saying I'm putting myself into a position where if the other team does their job, watches a flank, sets up a flank drone, then I'm not going to succeed and I'm going to be useless in this round. And
it's
that's
also a terrible way of practicing.
Exactly. Put yourself in a position where no matter what the enemy does, you're going to have a chance to make a difference on the round. And that's like the biggest difference for me to where me playing this game now versus maybe even like a year ago is I'm trying to limit the amount of times where I'm forced, I'm expecting the other team to make a mistake in order for me to succeed.
I really enjoy playing with I don't know how to say that in a nice, like, lower skilled players. Like, I guess that's fair. It's my own subs. They love it and they know it. But I enjoy playing with people that are like just around gold, trying to get a little bit further. And then let's say we're playing a map where in defense. I'll tell them, okay, sit here, look at this. Sit here, look at this. Sit here, look at this. And I'll be a little bit hard on them. So one of them will get in a fight and they'll run away. And I'll ask them why. Why did you run away? You got to stay there and then fight. Because once you die, we know that we've lost that area and we have to deal with it or react with it or to it. But when I still know you're alive and I don't know that you're still holding this thing, they could, like, the attackers could be in there. They could have taken control. At some point, you're going to have to take the fight. You can't just keep falling back, right? Because then you give up the position. So the whole idea is to force people into this uncomfortable situation where they stay and kind of stand their ground in this specific area of the map, and they might very well die. But at least everyone else knows, okay, we've lost this portion, now we have that extra to worry about, right? If everyone's running around, we don't have any idea of what do we have control over. Where is the attackers? And then it starts happening with, why is he there? Oh my God, this person, crouched in on site. If anything surprises you in Siege with the amount of intel we have, and you're not playing against a cheater, that's a mess up on your part. No matter how crazy the thing they did was. If you got wallbanged through 15 walls and shot in the big toe and instantly died, there was a reinforcement, a deployable shield, or something you could have done. And if you just start taking that default way of looking at it, that it might not have been your fault, but you can change it, then it becomes much, much easier to improve, because you always start looking for something that you can adjust to make it less likely to happen again, instead of an excuse of why it's okay that it happened now. And I think that is the biggest issue. I have a lot of people that come in and ask how they can improve this one thing or this one aspect, or they struggle with this one operator. And when you give them tips, they start defending why it is they're doing what they're doing.
That's so true.
And you're already going down the rabbit hole, right?
Well, I don't like playing Capital because every time I play them, my teammates never do anything when I throw the smoke. Oh, well, I don't like playing Thermite because my Thatcher never comes with me. That's so true.
Yeah. Or you have even, like, people go, well, I can't play low sensitivity because my mouse pad is small. Well, get a bigger mouse pad.
Yeah.
Like, you want to get better, there's a certain amount of you that has to be involved in this, right? We can't just have other people just tell you do this, and then you go, nope. Like that's not going to help. And some of it is going to be gonna be enjoyable and fun to do, and some of it is gonna be a bit tedious. Like a big aspect of really improving is to slow down and be more in the actual game, focused about it, making less crazy decisions that are based off random gut feeling instead of just thinking about what do I actually know. You're playing a cafe top floor and you're in piano and you've already burned a minute. Maybe it's okay to leave piano. There isn't really much for the attackers to do in there. They still got to breach freezer. They got to do all of this. You shoot 2 or 3 drones, we'll back off, and they got to re-drone the whole goddamn room, right?
Yeah.
Let them re-drone the whole room. Shoot the next set of drones when they go to the next room, and then fall back to site.
How much Legion are you playing, Pete? In my opinion, that's the best solo queue defender. Period.
I agree.
Is Legion. You don't. You get free call outs from his goo mines. You're
I love
putting
him.
yourself in a position where you're gonna
over there.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I do a fair bit, but I get to the point where if I've picked him a couple of times, I'm starting to think, it's getting a bit cheesy. But like that winning mentality, you should pick the right operator. And I totally agree. I think Legion is like I was playing on Villa the other day, and the way I was setting up those goo mines, it was just brilliant. It was just brilliant because I don't know if I'm using him correctly, but I always have it set so they're just inside the room, so they don't quite have any cover to retreat to. So that's how I play Legion. I want to get them. I don't want them to hit the goo mine before they get in the room. I want them to be in the room and then buggered, and then that's when I pounce. So I play Legion a fair bit. I was shocked to see that I was a mirror main apparently because I bloody hate her. But I think some of that is that thing where like I kind of know often, but not as much as I should, what operators we're probably going to need or to try to utilize for a particular site. And so I will take one for the team and do that. I'm not just running around as Ash.
It could be misleading too, Pete, because it could be that you play Mira on sites that are really defender favored to begin with. So therefore, your win rate with her is extremely high. Was it a mixture of KD and win rate, or was it just that was
no overall? I think it was pick. I think it was. I was talking to
that was
Red.
your highest pick.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I think that's just because you're nice. Like if you're playing Basement Oregon and there's missing a mirror and no one's taking a mirror, because back to the whole thing about not sometimes just doing stuff right and not being too much of an Ash main and sprinting around everywhere. Playing mirror on Oregon is goddamn boring, right? Like you stay in the same room and you hold a C4.
You know what though? I think some of it. This is my mistake. So I hold my hands up, and there might be some people that can empathise with this that's listening. Sometimes it's like focusing too much on the big picture stuff when I'm picking an operator, whether that be on attack or defense, and not actually saying what small role can I do in this match that's going to help us win, rather than thinking about, right, we're going to need this. I'm only one guy in a solo queue. So again, the clubhouse comparison, if we're in armory, I'll probably just play Pulse. Because I literally know the specific role that I can do. I can watch dirt, I can watch kitchen, I can watch the main stairs coming down. I can give calls over VoIP to people. I literally have a specific role. But sometimes I feel like I get bogged down in the big picture, and it would really help me to focus down on one little thing or 2 or 3 little things I can do and position myself around. So, for example, flanked, when you play Consulate, you said to me in the past, you play like a certain position, a certain role that that you can repeat when you play that maps. Does that ring true to you?
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas I think sometimes I could be very guilty of going in and, trying to like look at it too big rather than focusing it down into this thing that I can achieve.
And it changes based upon if I'm with a 5-stack or if I'm solo. So if I'm in a 5-stack defending top floor, there's like a Legion setup that I'll do that's like, it's basically me holding down B-bomb. It has some weaknesses, but it's, it's kind of what I do, and it usually works pretty well. It allows the rest of my team to really focus on everything other than the B site and, spread out a little bit more. But if I'm solo queuing, I'm much more likely to go on like a vigil and try and be that guy who runs out of garage with an impact and kills the person repelling on B. You know what I mean? I'm much more likely to like branch out and try to like take matters into my own hands and try and have an impact, because what I don't want to be is that vigil and B-bomb in a 1v5. Because then you're like, I just wasted my life. If I would have gone out as that vigil, or I'm sorry, I don't want to be that legion on the B-bomb in a 1v5. I want, because then I'm thinking if I would have been the vigil and I would have branched out, maybe I get an early pick here, maybe I get another early pick here, and then all of a sudden we win the round because of that. You know what I mean? So that's the balance that I'm always trying to achieve whenever I'm solo queuing, and it can be tough to find because it's dependent upon what your teammates are doing and how well they're getting kills.
The hard thing in Siege is you don't have a lot of time to find out how to do it either, right? So, like, my ideal way of solo queuing in my head, if I try to win, is I want to figure out, am I able to make a solo impact on this round by just like outskilling? Do I have enough mechanical skill that I can take two important players out early on and then put my team in a favorite position and run away? Because then I'll do that. If I don't think I can, if the other team maybe is a 5-stack or I know that they're just better in every aspect, I'll try to play more as a snake, right? I wanna make them get in and commit to something and then try to catch them off guard with they'll make a mistake somewhere, and I want to try and be there when that happens.
That's so malevolent.
I mean, yeah, but all's fair in love and war, right? Consulate, I'll play Mossy and admin if I solo queue, and I'll put all my Mossy pests on the 3 admin windows, and I will sit there with a C4 in hand, because a lot of good teams will rappel up that wall, and they will they'll breach the window, and I'll throw my C4 out, and they'll die on the rappel. Then I have 1 or 2 free kills, and it's great. And then I yeet somewhere else and hope things are good.
So just bringing it back to specifics, as I said at the outset, I'm not going to go over all these drills I'm doing and stuff because I don't know. I think the reason is I don't know if they work. I've only been doing them a very short period of time, and I don't want to suggest that other people go and waste their time and do this stuff until I know if it works. As someone in my 30s, I think it'll be a good measurement as to whether you can improve your reflexes doing what I'm doing. But I mean, in a month or 2 months, we can return to that. But I suppose I'd like to put out there what I'm doing, a couple of little things without going over the full picture, and see what your thoughts are on that. Now, I'm not doing anything outside of Siege, so I have in the past, by the way, I've downloaded apps off Steam. Flank, you know about one in particular that you recommended to me. But with regards to T-Hunt, so I do that thing I learned from Zyronic, which is going around very thoughtfully and with full concentration, although I might have a podcast on in the background or some songs, but I'm really concentrating. It's not brainless. The other thing I do, and this isn't mine, I saw this on a YouTube video many moons ago, it's this idea of playing to a point where you're stressing yourself. So you'll, instead of playing in between what I was just saying before, you run into a room where you actually know you can't take on 4 or 5 AI, or maybe there'll be 2 AI in there, and then you're really trying to stress yourself to pull off headshots. And what I think the benefit of that, what I've actually seen it actually in the week or so I've been doing this, is like I feel my reflexes have improved. Though that's a less than ideal way to play the game, you're putting yourself under this pressure to be able to react if that moment arises. What do you think about that?
Makes sense. I see the logic there.
So you wouldn't ever play the game like that. You would never do that. It would be completely stupid to do so. But what I'm taking from it is I'm able to react quicker to a situation that unfolds. And also, sorry, the other improvement in it is it's a visual one, actually. It's nothing to do with a mechanical skill. It's a visual identification of a threat and how quickly that signal goes from your brain to then begin to move towards that threat. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if you see 2 guys, your brain obviously has to determine that and tell you what action to take to resolve that situation. And I sort of felt improvements in doing that. So just to explain it to anyone watching, you might play T-Hunt and you might be in the garage area of Outback, and you literally know there's 4 people in there that you cannot probably have the ability to take on all at once, and you just run into the center of the room and then you try to take them out. And sometimes you'll have like little eureka moments where you pull it off, and you're going for headshots as well. You're not just spraying them at their legs, you're really concentrating to go for their heads.
I did a test with Tobii Eye Tracker for like target acquisition.
So what's that? Sorry, is that a piece of software?
It's
a hardware as well, I'd assume.
It's this thing right here. You put it underneath your monitor, and it will basically track where you're looking on your screen. But I did some testing with that in Tion and a couple of the other games. I wanted to see what was more or better for me. So I don't know if this works for anyone else. But you know that you can like use peripheral vision where you like kind of unfocus your eyes and you're just looking through things instead of staring at a certain thing. So I tried doing that, and it made it much easier for me to notice movement around things instead of like staring at the middle of my screen and then something happened in the corner. That could be a drone, a teammate, whatever, right? But if you used like this little bit more unfocused vision and you walked into a room, I felt it much easier to shoot a target on my left and then on my right. It felt a lot faster. I recorded it. I tracked like eye movement while doing it. And then I tried seeing what would happen if I just stare at my crosshair, because I can still see that there is someone in my peripheral vision, how accurate I could flick to them. Or if I looked at them and then flicked to them. It was much faster for me to look at the target and flick to them, and my accuracy was, let's say, 95% when I did it this way. Whereas with the other one, I was faster to start flicking, but my accuracy was way off.
Let me make sure I'm understanding exactly what you're saying. So you're saying that as you're playing a T-Hunt and you're moving throughout the map, that you will not be like focusing on your crosshair as much as you're looking at the entire room or screen in which you're entering. And then when you see a target, you'll pretty much use muscle memory, right? Because you're not looking at your crosshair to judge the distance from the crosshair to the target so much as you're just using muscle memory to say the target isn't in the middle of my screen right now, so I need to move this much in order to get my crosshair on top of him. Is that the general thought process?
Much better way of explaining than I could, yeah. Okay. Basically, when you like, I'm on a 24-inch monitor, and it was easier for me to say from center of my monitor to, let's say, 10 centimeters away where the target is. It was easier for me to translate that in my head to my arm, like from vision to arm, than it was to look at the crosshair, track the crosshair while it was moving to the target, and then stop it on target.
Gotcha.
I don't know how other people work, but I've always been looking at my crosshair and then moving it to the target. I started looking at the target instead, and my flicks got better, my crosshair placement got better. I get more kills where I shoot someone and I go, whoa, I didn't think I was going to hit that.
Right, so I can completely back that up, because I came to that very realization this week with what I've been doing, because one of the things is I'm moving between targets, and what I've found is I'm moving between a number of targets and shooting one bullet into them just to improve my muscle memory, and exactly what you've just said. So even before I've pulled, let's call it target 1, even before I've clicked the button, my eyes have moved over to look at target 2, and as I click the button, my mouse cursor is then moving to where my eyes have gone. So it's that hand-eye coordination, and I come to that very realization. And then as I'm about to click target 2, my eyes aren't even looking at it. They've gone to target 3, and then my hand then follows afterwards. And I found that realization of coming to that conclusion in my head probably improved my aim 5-10% without even improving muscle memory.
That's what you do in competitive shooting as well, right? You don't hold your gun up and then adjust your eyes to find it, right? You put your sight in front of your eyes. So you stare at the target, and then your sight goes into to that. Then you look at another target and you put your sights in front of that. So if you do like real life competitive shooting, it's always vision first, because your body will follow your eyes. When you start focusing about where that dot is, that's when stuff starts getting, it's not natural anymore, and
Yeah.
it doesn't really work. And as long as you're more focused on being precise and accurate than being fast, then I think you'll always improve. When speed becomes more important than precision and accuracy, and there is a difference, by the way, between precision and accuracy, that's really important to know. When speed becomes more of a focus than the other two, then I think performance starts dropping off, because it doesn't matter how quick you are if you miss your shot. I think a lot of people will, by slowing down, like, I know that if I put my gun on semi-auto, I am way more likely to hit my initial shot than I am if I don't, because I take a little longer. I don't know, maybe it's 200 milliseconds or half a second, but I have time to be a little slower and get that shot off. And like, I'd rather have that delay every single time and then hit the shot than start a full auto spray off target and miss. So I think everyone, that's why I'm a big advocate for going into T-Hunt and then making sure that you headshot every single target. The first time you miss, you start over again, and you keep doing this until you're through. This might not be a thing for console. I think that would be not so fun of an experience. I don't know if it's doable. But on PC, like, it takes me 10 or 15 runs to get enough discipline to not miss a single shot. And it's not fun, but you feel like an absolute god when you stop doing it, because then you let go of everything. Right now you can full auto, you can move, and you don't have to slow yourself down because you know exactly where it is you're accurate. But it gives some sort of like, there's something on the line when you know that you have to restart every time you mess it up. Because the first time you're gonna get to the 11th T-Hunt bot, and then you're gonna think, I can do this. And you're a little bit too quick and you miss, and now you got to start over. It's horrible to do, but damn, does it work.
Let me throw.
Well,
go ahead, Pete.
No, go on.
Well, I was gonna throw something at you guys, because I mentioned earlier that, like, I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, what I'm working on now, and it feels weird, like, obviously giving advice, because I recognize, like, I have so much further to go as a player, and everybody does to a certain degree, but like, as I'm right now trying to focus on working with a team to progress throughout Platinum and hit Diamond, the big thing that I'm focusing on right now, and it's a team effort, it's not just me, but is, like, information gathering. I think that's probably the biggest weakness. Like, I went back actually last night and looked through, I was in a 5-stack and we were playing on Consulate, and I went through and I looked at our attacking rounds in which we lost. And in those attacking rounds, there was maybe one call out per round from somebody who was alive and on a drone. I think that most people don't realize how many of their call outs come from teammates who just died to somebody. And that's not a good call out. Like, I want to call out from somebody who's alive and somebody who's on a drone. Like, and that's where I feel like my stack is really suffering right now, is just the constant pursuit of information throughout the entire course of the round. Like, everybody's really good at getting on their drone in the prep phase and setting it up and, like, getting it, you know, keeping it in a good angle or whatever. But a minute into the round, I'll give you an example from that game. So they're in the basement of Consulate. We decide, hey, we're going to clear the top 2 floors of Consulate, and we're going to start, destroying the floor above them and garage there and go about it that way. Well, we had 2 players die in the first minute of the round to enemies that we didn't know existed that were on the third floor. And that's the stuff that I'm trying to eliminate with my squad right now. It's like, okay, so I was the only person on drone at the beginning of that round, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm not trying to say that I'm better at this than any of my teammates were, but it just so happened that round, I was the only person who got on drone after the prep phase to try to drone out those top 2 floors. And in my opinion, that's inexcusable. Like, how are you going to put yourself in a position where you can die without knowing that where you're going is clear? You know what I mean? Like, so that's really what I'm working on. And what really opened my eyes to this was playing a few games with Hot and Cold, pro player for DZ, Dark Zero, and just listening to him, playing a ranked game with him. He is constantly pursuing information. And it's not like, hey, drone me in. It's just throughout the entire round, he wants to know, hey, is this room clear? And maybe you have that information, maybe you don't. But he wants to know, do you know that information? If you do, tell me. And if you don't, then maybe I need to find out for myself. Or, hey, hey, guys, we're in a 4v2. Let's find the last 2 enemies alive. Let's find them. We're on a 4v2 on attack. Let's find the last 2 defenders. We have a minute left in the round. Let's get on drones, drone them out, and find out where they are, and so that we can decide how we want to tackle this final minute of play. That's really like the next step for me in my stack, I feel like, is information gathering throughout the entire course of the round. And it doesn't mean just droning in your ash. That's not like what I'm talking about. It's a constant information gathering job from every player on the board.
Sitting on the drone when you're dead, not flicking to Twitter, as Ironic said earlier. There is a job that you can still do when you're not alive, and you actually should be doing.
It's also a big responsibility for you to actually ask for a drone.
Yeah.
When you're dead, go give me a flank drone. Before we had the double active drone in Siege, a really, really cool thing you could do. I mean, you can still do it, but it's just not as necessary now because you can have so many drones. Was you would have like everyone drive their drones back in prep phase or put them up on the flank watch, and then you have one guy who's on flank watch. His only job is he sits and spams through every single drone, and he gets a full 360 view of the entire map, right? Like, let's take Bank. You're attacking basement, and you go for a server take. You have one drone up on Skylight, you have one around main stairs, and you have one in Tellers, or in kitchen. Kitchen, Tellers, and Skylight. And you can sit and spam through these, and now you can't get flanked. It is literally impossible for anyone to sneak up on you without you knowing. Even if it's a vigil, you'll get some sort of static. You'll see a change between the levels of the different drones. So if your flank watch is good and he's sitting in electric, for example, going through these, he'll always be able to say, one guy come in kitchen, I need help. Someone can back up and help him, because if he takes the fight, then he's messed up. He's the guy who's there to make sure that no one gets flanked, right? So you send another guy up to help him. Because if that guy loses the fight, then you still have another guy who's kind of in between that line. So if they push further or they try to do more, well, then there's another guy fighting. And you'll always have this gap of space where you can play around and pull people back to. And when you need to attack, you can leave these drones up because you probably have one player dead, and he takes over that job and the other guy goes down to attack site. If 5 stacks, especially in ranked, would play like that, and attack site almost straight on in a group, instead of all trying to surround site and have like 5 1v1s, which a lot of it turns into. Like I can play with some amazingly skilled players, and I know why it happens. It's because for some of them, this is literally their job to play at a competitive level, and they really don't care when they play ranked. Right? Like, there isn't any gain for them. It's just to kind of stay in shape. But for people that wanna try what it feels like to play as a really part of a team, attacking like an actual 5-stack bowl of death on site and then having some drones is so insanely strong, because you will always have someone to refrag. You just got to have the mentality of, it doesn't really matter if I die in my first engagement, because I know the guy behind me is going to take the fight again. And even if he dies, there's going to be another one to take the fight. Because you'd be surprised with how quickly you can turn like 2 deaths on your team into a victory if you're just fast enough, right? Like, we can see it with rushes in competitive play. The first 2 players might die, but then the guy is reloading, and now you're on site with 3 people, and everyone else has to come flooding back. So you kind of got to commit and realize that you're playing for that round, and if that round starts falling out of your favor, you have to like up the aggression to try and win it. Because if you start stalling in a 2v4, you're not going to win.
Right.
Like, you need to flip that switch really quickly so it becomes a fair fight again, because like by all metrics, you are losing heavily in a 2v4. No matter what utility you have left, if you're 2 attackers versus 4 defenders, your hope is that you can get people removed from like the initial part of site that you're close to, maybe get the plant down, or start like making the defenders have to come to you. And if you start looking at it that way, then the loss doesn't hurt as much when you get in the 2v4, because you did what was like the statistical right thing to do. You took a chance, it paid off or it didn't, and now you're on to the next round. So now we try not to lose 3 people early on in the round for the next run, right? And then stop looking at each match, but look at like the day. What was the day's performance? Instead of getting tilted about losing a round or a map, well, how was the day? And then in the even bigger picture, well, how was the week? Like, are you winning more than you're losing? Because if you're doing that, well, then you're climbing. And that's a pretty good place to be. Most people is going to be around, a 50-50. Because that's just equilibrium. Like, we can't all be winning more than we're losing. There's got to be someone in both ends of the fight. But I think if people start looking at like their long-term performance instead of, I lost this one round, well, it doesn't matter. What about like win the next game instead, right? It's kind of what you do as a competitive team. You scrim to get your losses out of the way, so you're ready for the actual match, right? Like it's practice. No one cares if they win a scrim, or at least you shouldn't. A scrim should be for you to practice and learn from.
No, scrim is where you go and you get screenshots to show your friends how to do this. That's what a scrim's for. What are you talking about? I don't know how you guys do it in EU, but in NA, scrims are for bragging rights.
We still have something to learn there. I actually do have some clips from scrims of people LD4ing. Those might be gold in a couple of years.
I think maybe to sum up this conversation, the great thing is that in this game, man, you're always improving. Like, it doesn't matter I don't care who you are. There is still more to learn about this game.
Yep. And
that's why I love it. And maybe even to tie it in with Project A that we mentioned before, in my opinion, there's a lot of SPSs out there, but Siege is chess. And some other FPSs that I've played feel like checkers, and that's like the depth comparison that I'll make between Siege and not all, but some other FPSs. So, if the reason I'm still playing Siege is because, Pete, you've been playing this game since the beta, and here we are having this conversation. That's what's amazing about this. So, anything else that you guys wanted to add on to that?
No, I'm with you on that one. The main reason I hated Siege when it came out, like I really hated it. I thought it was ridiculous. There was that much to learn, and then it started bothering me why I was angry about having to learn stuff, and now I can't get away from it. The main reason I love the game is that like it's an endless pit of you're always able to get better. That you will never have an excuse for not improving.
I think the big thing I'm going to take away from this discussion is to keep a notepad handy while I'm playing. And if there is, and I'm going to keep it light, if there's a bullet point that I can put in that notepad that I know I can look at afterwards and just consider what I could have done better or improved that. But again, really, as Soronic sort of said earlier, it is about that competitive nature and that challenge of trying to improve. That's what I get enjoyment out of. Seeing, it's like a gardener who puts a plant in the seed in the ground and then sees it flourish. It's that you do want to challenge yourself and see yourself improve. And I think we should revisit this topic in a few months.
I want to throw a quick thing in there. You hit a good point. So it doesn't matter how good you get. It's the chase that's the only thing that actually matters. You're gonna get the gold by whenever you set your goal, and that's not going to be good enough. Then you're going to get the plat, then you're going to get the diamond, then you're going to get the champion, and it will never be good enough because it's competitive nature, and some people like that chase and some people don't. But if you are a person that likes that, you are never going to be fulfilled. It's the actual goal of getting there. The same, like you can ask the people that won Invitational, they're not done, right? Like it's not good enough. Now I got to win it again. I think it's good. Like we just have to realize that we're in this like endless hunt of something that we can't actually get, but we enjoyed the pursuit.
I think that's broadly true of life as well. There isn't an end place Yeah, there isn't necessarily an end place, but it's the constant challenge. Anyway, we'll talk about that maybe another time. Are we wrapping it up?
I think so. Are you guys good with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good with that. I just want to say thanks for all the support. Keep recommending the podcast to your friends. We're growing really quickly. I think we're approaching 9,000 subscribers. And as we alluded to earlier, when we get to 10,000 subscribers, we can partner with YouTube and do merchandise officially through the YouTube app. So you'll see it below the video. So if you've got any ideas about stuff you'd like to see, baseball caps, T-shirts, that sort of thing. Perhaps there's something that we haven't thought of. Put it in the comments section.
Yeah, great point. And yeah, really, really excited about the growth on all the platforms. As far as we're on the podcast audio only platforms, everything's looking really healthy there as well. So appreciate that from everybody. And yeah, I guess with that said, we'll sign off and we'll see you guys next week.